Hello and welcome to Management 720. My name is Scott Hawkins. I'll be your instructor for the course and a little bit of information, sort of background on me and my career. My father was in the Air Force. What that meant was I ended up living overseas quite a bit, mostly in Europe when I was young. I went to three different high schools in three different countries. This really set the pattern for my corporate career because I ended up being in international business most of my life. For undergrad, I went to an East Coast university called Washington and Lee University, where I studied economics. And at the time, everyone thought I was dumb because Japan was the country that was doing was the economic powerhouse. But I studied Chinese. Maybe it was because I liked Kung Fu theater on Sundays. I don't know why. But whatever reason, it ended up really charting the course for my corporate career because most of my jobs dealt with Asia. As far as jobs, I worked for GNC International, where I set up franchises and ran company owned stores throughout Asia. I lived in Fort Lauderdale for a short time, and most of the time for GNC, I lived and worked out of New Zealand in the Asian area. After I made a change of businesses, I changed in because this was the sort of the upswing of the supply chain movement. All the companies were moving their supply chains and moving their factories to Asia. I started working in the Nike factory arena, and Nike doesn't really own its own factories, but they contract manufacture out, and so they needed people to actually run the supply chains for all these factories to make sure that that all the materials and whatnot were, I guess, of good quality. So we ended up providing the leather and the textiles, or a good portion of the leather and the textiles, and all of the brown and orange, shoe boxes to these factories. So I did that for a number of years. I was based out of Vietnam for a short time and in China for a longer time, maybe 4 or 5 years. After I kind of returned to the States, I switched jobs, but I still was dealing with Nike. I worked for a technology startup that did graphic representations of uniforms and jerseys, 3D, early 3D work that both Adidas and Nike were doing. So I've worked for large companies, I've worked for medium-sized companies, small companies, in a number of different industries, both here and abroad, and I've had a really, fulfilling journey. But as we all do, we change what we are looking for, and I ended up getting interested in academics and teaching, and I've been teaching for the last 10, 12 years. I started off at Portland State because that's where Nike was and that's where I was based. And actually, that's where my mother's side of the family is from. My grandfather was a strawberry farmer, which was great. And when I was young, I used to, quote unquote, go work on the farm, but all I did was just stuff my face with strawberries. So worked at Portland State for a number of years, and then I taught at Texas Tech, and now I'm here at Black Hills State. I have undergraduate degrees in economics and Chinese and accounting. I also have master's degrees in supply chain and finance, and my PhD is in accounting. My area of research funny enough, is professional ethics, because when you're working overseas, there's a lot of, let's just say, gray area type of business going on. Now, let's take a look at the course. I want to go through all of the information that you've partially been provided for, but just to make sure that you hear it from me directly so that there aren't any questions. Or if there are questions, at least this is a better explanation. So let's move on and first take a look at the syllabus. So the first thing about the syllabus that I would like to point out is just that this is an online course, and therefore we won't be meeting in a classroom. So there are no true office hours. It's pretty much by appointment. And if you need to meet face-to-face, we can arrange for that, and I can meet on either Rapid City or in Spearfish. But most likely, most of your questions are going to be able to be handled by Zoom. So just if you have a question, feel free to utilize me as a resource. Send me either a question by email, or if you send me a suggested time, I'll send you a Zoom invite and we can meet by Zoom. Hopefully, most of you have experience with meetings on Zoom. If not, we can always work that out as well. Also, a lot of times, because there are a bunch of different interfaces, make sure that you are contacting me through my bhsu.edu email address, not through D2L or not through my business course, not the homework portal. you can reach me there, but I don't check those as often as I do my regular email account. And especially in summer, the easiest way to get a hold of me is through that. I will also like to point out that there's a bunch of regular information here, and we'll go over this sort of when we talk about each individual part. But let me just point out kind of the grading. Let's see. The grading here is going to be, if we take a quick look here, and maybe I'll just actually expand it a little bit, is that there are 700 points that go into the final grade. 3 of them are exams. Now you notice I've kind of level set everything to be in 100 point increments. So each exam is 100 points. All the quizzes, independent of how many actual points on the quizzes, and we'll do it in an example. The quizzes all together count as one exam, or 100 points. The homework all together counts as one exam. And there actually will be a few extra bonus points in the homework. And each case study will count as one exam. So what does that mean, I guess, from a high-level view, is that exams are where you're tested on your competency in a time situation, and not everyone does well in an exam situation. So that might not be a true reflection of your capabilities, but that's how learning and coursework happens. We need to test you on your knowledge and whether or not you can show me what you've learned. But I will say that so that's 300 points. The other 400 points, though, are completely within your, I guess, control, because they're not timed. The quizzes are not timed. The homework is not timed. There are due dates for each of these, but you're not under the pressure of a time or, closed book type situation. So even though there are 300 points in the exams, you can, if you feel like you're not a good exam taker, that there are other things within your control to help bring up your score. And even within the exams, I have my own way of doing these things, and I will show you here in just a minute what all goes into the exams and the quizzes, so you will, I guess, understand how to, one of the most important things that we do with these intro sessions is how do I attack the material so I can get the grade I'm looking for. Okay, now at the very bottom here, there is a schedule, and this is just a rough schedule. I have already published on D2L a more complete schedule, and I'll come back and I'll refer to that. Once we've gone through and looked at each of these individual items, I'll show you exactly kind of how all the things fit into the schedule. So here's an example of Chapter 1 PowerPoints and just be aware that these are the PowerPoints that are supplied by the textbook. Typically, I don't use PowerPoints in my instructional videos, but they're there for those who enjoy, like to read PowerPoints. In my instructional videos, I will be, by default, the textbook PowerPoints kind of try and emphasize everything at 100%. Everything's important, but we have a limited time with the material, and so I'm going to use my best judgment to highlight these are the things I'd like you to learn, and these are secondary, and that will flow through to the testing. So enjoy the PowerPoints if you like that, but please use the instructional videos as far as the material that I'm going to cover that is going to be used in the exams. Now let's take a look. So we've gone through the PowerPoints, and let's take a look at the checklist, and we're going to go through basically each item. This is here just the course home page with the news items, and you see here I have the checklist. If we go to assessments, assessments, third item down is checklist. You'll see there's one checklist, getting started, and just a little information about it. Now, I realize that the student view is maybe slightly different here. This is the instructor view, but you'll have the same sort of things here. Now, each thing, if you click on it, it'll give you a little bit of information, but I'm actually here to kind of walk through all that information. And so as you complete each of these things, now this is not graded or anything like that. This is just to make sure that you have everything ready to go, so that when we start getting into the content next week, that you'll be ready to keep up. So the first thing is the textbook. So in the content tab for D2L, there's going to be one section called Getting Started. And within that section, there, of course, there's the schedule, there's the syllabus, and there's a link to the case studies, and then there's this PDF. Now, this PDF is how to access the textbook and how to purchase it. And basically, you go to the link there, the section enrollment link, which we'll click on here in just a minute. But notice your access options. You can, if you bought a printed textbook at the bookstore, it'll come with an access code. You can also, through this link, just buy an e-textbook with the course, and it'll get an access code. Or if for some of you, if you have a used textbook, or you found a better, cheaper place to buy the textbook, you still need access to the homework portal. And so through this link, you can also just purchase the course only. So you can see that there in the access options. So when you click on the link in the registration PDF or copy and paste it, you'll be brought to a page like this. And it's already set up to, you don't have to go find the course. This is the course. All you need to do is enroll. If you enroll, you'll be brought to this next page here. If you've already taken a course through Cambridge or used a textbook in one of the other courses through Cambridge, then all you have to do is log into your existing account. If you haven't, then you have to create a new account. And once you do that, it'll bring you to the course options, whether you're just going to get the access code only, or if you're going to get the e-textbook, etc., etc. Those will be the options that'll be available after you've gone through this link. When you get access to the textbook will be, of course, in an e-textbook format. For those of you who are doing this, and it'll look like this. Sometimes people ask me, how do I get it to look dark? Well, there's a little button up here for the toggle the theme. But, it used to be that I couldn't read textbooks on computer, but I've gotten better. Probably many of you are the same, that you haven't maybe kind of gotten there yet. But it gets better with time. And, I used to have so many books, and I'm glad that we're not actually using all the paper that we used to use, because that felt like a big waste. Well, anyway, this is what the textbook will look like. You go to any chapter and it'll come up and it'll talk about it. Now, obviously, I have it here. Let's see. You can get rid of the table of contents, and it's bigger, etc., etc. The actual homework page will look something like this. Now, again, the student view is usually a little different. Here, let's check on the... So here, you can see there, this would be what the student would see. Now, this would show you what the current day is, May 25th. And if you click forward, it actually shows on the calendar what's due, and here in the upcoming assignments. And so you would go ahead and click on that, do the assignment. And the assignment, if you have any problem with the assignments, I think I've set it up, and of course, sometimes the controls are a little finicky, that you have 2 attempts, but during each attempt, you can check as many times whether the answer is correct or not. So I almost think you probably don't need 2 attempts, because as you go along, you can constantly click the button, is this correct, is this correct, is this correct? So, but just in case, for whatever reason, that you accidentally sign out, or there was a power failure and your book closed and submitted it, or something like that, I've set you up with 2 attempts, but you should be able to get through in 1 attempt, just because of the feature of constantly, there's a button that says, is this answer correct? Is this answer correct? And like I say, if you have questions, I would say, rather than submitting a question to me through my business card, best thing is either just explain the homework question that you have a problem with, or, sometimes people take screenshots and send those to me too. That'd be fine. So back to the checklist, the first 2 items, you would have said, okay, I have bought a printed textbook, I bought a used book, I have access to the ebook, whichever one of those, okay, you have access. I've also got the access code, whether it came with a new textbook or with the rental of the e-textbook, or you bought it solo. The next thing you need to do is make sure you download the 2 case studies. And we'll talk about the case studies sort of individually here in just a moment. But the link for that is going to be here in the Getting Started part under Content. Under Content, this is the Getting Started section. You'll see that here's the schedule, which we kind of looked at before, talked about the syllabus. This is the registration PDF. And here's the link for the 2 case studies. That link will bring you to a page like this. There are 2 case studies required for this course, Paul Dietrich Farms and Barrett Gold, and total amount is less than $10. So make sure you download those. Now, we won't be going over them, so you don't have to download them immediately. But as far as the checklist, just make sure that when you click on that it does bring you to the correct place. And even if you're going to hold off for a few weeks to purchase it, just make sure that you do have access, that you do see it. Now, getting back to the checklist. Okay, you've either purchased the case studies or you've confirmed that you see them, that you have access to them. The next thing to do is, because the exams, this is an online course, we have something what is called Respondus Lockdown Browser. Now, for those of you who went to school during COVID, of course, you probably are very familiar with this. For those of you who are new to this, you need to set up basically some browser software on your computer. Now, you can, there is a place to go and try and figure out how to install it. But what we've actually done here is, if you go to the assessment and you go down to quizzes, you'll be brought to the 2 quizzes that are available to you at the moment. One is the Financial Accounting Review, and we'll cover that here in just a minute. But the other one is this sample quiz requires Respondus Lockdown Browser. As I understand it, that this was someone else helped me set this up in the administration. They said this is an easier way to do it. Basically, if you're not sure, either you're sure, yes, you have it, and then you click on this and there's a question. The question just is, yes, I have it set up. So, you get your point. If you don't have the Respondus Lockdown Browser set up, or it's not set up on this computer, or you have a different laptop, as I understand it, if you click on this and it's not set up, it will initiate the setup procedure. So all you need to do is, whether you have it or not, is just click on this. If you have it, then you can just answer the one question and you're done. You've basically confirmed that you have Respondus set up. If you don't have it, it should bring you through the steps to have it set up, and thereby get you set up and ready for the exams. Because the last thing you want to do is to be confused and nervous about all that when you start to do your exam and everything's not set up correctly. So go ahead and click on that, and that will get you going on either confirming or setting up the lockdown browser. So we can check off, if you have done that, you can check off the Respondus Lockdown Browser. And the next thing is to take the review quiz. Now again, that is on the same page, the Financial Accounting Review. And although this course is managerial accounting, I think it would be a good refresher to go through this. Now, I'm going to include this as part of the quiz points, but as you see, you have a complete ability to get 100%, full points for these. So right now, I'd like you to just go through the Financial Accounting Review and not really worry about whether you get a good grade or a bad grade, but just really to assess, do you recognize these terms? Do you know what's going on? We can take a quick look here. So financial statements are primarily, here, I'll give you the answer to one. Financial statements are primarily created for the use of the external users. Now, you may wonder, well, you want to do as good a job as possible. Just be aware that the quizzes are going to be open for the entire time, for the entire course. In other words, the quizzes I use as just another study material, and it helps you kind of prepare for the exams. So for the Financial Accounting Review, you might want to just do a before and after. just take the financial accounting review quiz, see how well you do, and I will publish a financial accounting review video that once you look at it, you can go back and redo the quiz as many times as possible. And I think that would be good for you, because one of the takeaways that you want to have when you come out of this course is not only the managerial stuff, but enough financial accounting, everything to do with the financial statements, enough of that knowledge so that you can listen and talk intelligently at least a basic level with your accountants. So I feel like this is going to be something good for you. And like I say, there is no late penalty. You can take it as many times as you want, and only the highest grade will be taken. So I think it's a good way for you to say, okay, I took it the first time without looking at any material. This is the grade I got. Then I took a look at the video, and I was able to go through and get 100% on that. So again, quizzes are used as a means to help you build up your overall grade, because you can take it as many times as you want. Therefore, you can get 100% on that, on any and all of the quizzes. So go ahead and take that. And so even though it says due on May 27th, that's just a rough due date. I'd like you to kind of at least get the first time through taken care of on by Monday, and then you can go back and redo it whenever you would like. Back on the checklist, once you've done the review, hopefully you'll be watching the video. It's sort of a chicken and an egg thing here. I'm describing everything in the video, but the video will be posted to the YouTube channel. What does the YouTube channel look like? It will look like this. That is not me. That's Doc Brown from Back to the Future. As you'll see here, I have a couple of other courses listed. The top course will be Management 720. But, it's kind of chicken and the egg. Until I post this video, it won't be on here. But I'm recording this video right now, so it hasn't been posted yet. But by the time you are able to look at the video, there'll be another section here with one video. It'll be the intro video, and it'll say Management 720. And I'll post that link in D2L as well. And this is where I will post all of the videos for the course. And so you have a place to go for central location. If you're interested in these other courses, well, you're welcome to ask me about them. I can tell you what they're on if you have any interest with that. So that takes care of all the checklist. Let's actually talk a little bit about the individual sections of the coursework, the exams, the homework, the quizzes, that sort of thing, so you have an understanding of what I'm requiring there. The homework will, of course, be done through the My Business Course homework portal, and we talked about how to get access to that. Each exam, I'll be covering 2 chapters a week, except for on the exam week. So if we go over here and look on the schedule, this first week is just intro, and getting registered and getting started. So the first week I'll cover chapters 1 and 2. The second week, or the second week I'll cover chapters 1 and 2. The third week I'll capture chapter 3 and 4. Then we'll take an exam. And that's the same pattern. Two chapters, exam. And in that way, I think we can keep up kind of a normal rhythm. And what I probably will end up doing is I will probably take these. So if you notice, I'll probably plan the video on Monday. I'll probably post the first chapter on Tuesday. I'll probably use Wednesday to plan the next video and post the next video. So I'm giving myself a couple of days during the week to post the videos, but unless something crops up and I have some other duties at the university, I plan on posting sort of Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, once it's posted on Thursday, so you can see here, chapter 3 and 4, anytime we cover 2 chapters, the homework will be due the Monday following. So I post chapters 1 and 2 the week 2. The homework for chapters 1 and 2 are due the next week, and same with 3 and 4. And that's how it works all the way through. That way, I know some of you work, so you can still have the weekend. Some of you want to get ahead of it. Right now, I have only posted chapter 1. I wanted someone to confirm that they did see it, but once I do, I will get ahead of the game. I'll have chapters posted before they're actually. Well, I mean, before they're due, but I mean, in other words, as soon as I get on a little bit of a roll, hopefully I can get all the chapters posted by, say, the first exam, so that if you want to look ahead, you can actually look ahead. Now, you notice we've got, so on Monday, there's a review. The review quiz is quote unquote due, then homework, and then the first quiz is due by the time of the first exam. And when we start talking about the exam, we'll take a look at that. Homework is open afterwards, but at a minus 20% penalty. I realize that we all have our own personal schedules, and sometimes we can't always fit things in. But to try and encourage that to try and encourage you to keep up, there is a due date. So if the homework is not finished by the due date, then there's a minus 20% penalty. I believe this particular homework portal allows me to do it that way. Each portal is slightly different. If there's some strange thing that they don't allow me to do, I'll make sure I mention that in the D2L news. Now, what is this particular method that I'm applying here with the homework? It's critical thinking. In other words, I go through what I want you to know and how I want you to know it in the lecture videos. And the homework is not always set up to be exactly the same. It's going to be all the same material, but it's maybe posed in a slightly different manner, slightly different wording. Maybe it's a little bit more complex wording. And so that allows you to say, okay, I've looked at the lecture video. Here's the homework. It's slightly different, or it's presented slightly differently, and so how do I make the leap between type of context? Because the managerial accounting information that I provide you in the lecture video, once you get actually into your own job, it won't be exactly as the wording and the presentation won't be exactly as I have given it. So this is the method that the homework is addressing is to have you make an analogy. This is how I saw it in the video. This is how I see it in the homework, and to make that leap. Again, the homework in total represents one exam's worth of points. And now I build in extra points for the homework, and that's to help us with time management and reduce stress. And what do I mean by that? So let's say there are 25 points for 12 chapters. Let's say that there's 200 points, or that doesn't work out correct. Let's say there are homework points of 200. However many chapters, there ends up being 200 points. Now, 200. What I don't want you to do is stress and say, I need to get every single homework point, because sometimes there's a concept in the homework that you might struggle with. What I want you to do is just give a good faith effort with the homework. And if there are questions, that's okay to not finish it on time, or I don't want to say not finish on time, but not finish every last point. And to make that workable, what I say is, if there is a total of 200 points in the homework, I will then make a threshold. And for the example here, let's say the threshold is 150 points, meaning you don't have to get every last point from every homework assignment to still get 100% for the homework category. And so what does that allow you to do? That allows you to be late on an assignment or two, or if you have to, you end up missing an assignment altogether, or if you just don't complete every last question, you can still get close to 100% of the points. So here, if I set the full points threshold at 150, there were 200 points and you end up getting 180 points, well, you got a couple of bonus points. You got 130 points, or in other words, 30 points. And I usually set up the threshold to be whatever the threshold is. If you do the max amount of points, that's worth about a half letter grade of extra credit. So, I encourage you to do all the homework, but just realize even if you can't do every last thing, that's not a problem. You'll still get plenty of points from the homework. For the quizzes, of course, there's the first quiz, the financial review, I think is 50 questions. And the other ones are probably going to be 40 to 50 questions, depending upon how much content. Some of the chapters are a little lighter in content. But the quizzes, I'm just going to say, between the quiz and the exam, I've designed the quiz to help you study for the exam. I don't like to have extraneous material where it's asking you to do this, that, and the other thing, and it doesn't really contribute to A, your overall understanding, or B, it's not work designed to help you improve your grade. So what do we have here? So the quizzes, as far as the teaching method, is the repetition part of teaching. Sometimes there's critical thinking, sometimes there's analysis, sometimes there's application of concepts, and sometimes you just need to have repetition of the basic concepts so you kind of drill them down. So this is what quizzes are for. How I do my tests are I say that the information in each chapter is not all equal, meaning there are some basic pieces of information that I really want you to come away from the course knowing, and then there are some application information that you don't have to know all of it. You know, the more you know, the better, obviously, for your understanding of the grade. But those could be more complex and difficult questions. So I designed the quizzes to be all of the C-level questions possible that I might ask on the exam. And because the quizzes are open the entire course and you can do it over and over, the idea is that you go in and do the quiz, and hopefully you'll do it 3, 5 times, however many times it's necessary for you to almost memorize what the answers are to the C-level questions, so that when you get to the exam, the C-level questions are almost a given. And how I do the grading is sort of kind of inverse too. I weight the basic questions more and the more advanced questions less, so that you can almost get the majority of your grade by just focusing on making sure you know the basic information. And of course, as a learning opportunity, that's great for me. I want you definitely to put some emphasis on learning the basics, and as you have time and interest, you can learn the more complex or complicated concepts. But I want you to make sure you come away with the basics. So by doing the quizzes, you are studying for the exam, because the C-level questions on the quizzes will be, for example, if there are 40 questions, I will choose 12 of those for the exam, and they will look exactly the same. Now, the order of the A, B, C, D responses might be a little different from the quiz to the exam, but it'll be the same responses. There will be no gotcha questions in the quiz. So basically, doing the quiz is a way to get full points and also to study for the exam. If the total quiz points, and again, all the quizzes together represent the weight of one exam. So no matter how many actual points are in the quizzes, I'm going to weight it out of 100. So if total quiz points is 170 and you got, for example, 153, then the points applied to the final grade would be 90 out of 100. But because the quizzes are open as long as you need them and you can take it as many times, the idea is that you should be able to get 100% or close to 100% on the quizzes. And so that's another thing that will offset. Not only can you get a really high grade on your quizzes, but doing well on the quizzes helps you with the exam. And the quizzes will be due the first day will be due the first day of the exam window. Now, as I said, the quiz is open for the entire 10 weeks, but it doesn't make sense. So it's sort of a soft due date. In other words, there's no penalty to doing the quizzes late, but I would really advise you to do the quiz enough times before you do the attendant exam. So do quiz number 1 3 to 5 times to make sure you understand all the concepts and you can recognize all the questions, so that when you go into exam 1, you can just knock those out really quickly. So quiz 1, quiz 2, and quiz 3 are all due basically the first day that you can take the exam. So how do the exam works? Well, first of all, there's 3 exams, 4 chapters each. They're non-cumulative. Of course, it's all accounting, so there's going to be some concepts. But the more kind of specific concepts, I'm not going to be testing again and again. Now, the C-level questions, as you see here, the C-level questions are 4 points, and there'll be 12 of them for 48 points. So you can see if you just memorize the C-level questions from the quizzes, you're already halfway to, you've got like 48 free points. And if you factor in the essay which is given to you beforehand as well, or at least the topics are, that's 58. So almost 60 points. You can almost pass just by knowing the C-level questions and preparing your essay correctly. Now, of course, the B and the A-level questions, those are the more complicated questions, and there will still be 12 of each, but they'll be weighted less, 2.5 points, 1 point for the A-level questions. So this is also sort of a time management strategy for the exam. Make sure you knock out the C-level questions, then work on the Bs. Try and get the Bs because they're worth more points than if you finish those and you feel comfortable with those, then work on the As. Because if you only do half of the A's, you're only missing 6 points. But if you don't do half of the C-level questions, well, that's a lot more. That's 24 points. So time management, also kind of stress reducing. If it kind of feels good, and I have had this feedback from students that they know that they have a certain base level grade because they did well on the C-level questions, and that sort of reduces the test taking anxiety for the B's and the A's. So C-level questions come from the quiz. Now, where do the A and B level questions? Well, prior to each exam, I didn't mean to highlight all that. You'll see that there's an exam prep period. So for each of these other weeks, I produce a video. I produce a video for each chapter. So 2 videos during the chapter weeks. During the exam week, I will produce an exam preparation video that goes over the A and the B level questions. And kind of focusing on a little later, I will also produce a video that you can watch at your convenience that covers the case. So you can see for almost every week except for the last week, I will basically be producing 2 videos for you to watch. And hopefully I can keep the videos to about an hour each. In some cases, a little less, like the case requirements will probably be less, but most chapters I'll kind of require like an hour to go over. So on your part, what does that mean? You've got to watch 2 videos a week, you've got to do some homework, or you've got to prepare for an exam is kind of your requirements. As far as the exams, there's going to be a short written essay part of it. Now, what I will do is I will give you 3 topics ahead of time, and so therefore you can prepare in advance your answers for those. And what will they be? Well, remember, I don't want this course to, I'm not trying to make you out to be an accountant, but what I want you to do is have enough basic understanding that you can explain, sort of general accounting terms or accounting ideas. Now, what am I trying to do with this? So if you're an MBA and you're a middle manager, what I'm trying here is not only to allow you to speak to your accountant and understand what they're talking about and what their concerns are, but if you're a middle manager, a lot of times you've got to turn around and explain to your boss, this is what's going on. So not only do I want you to understand the accountant, as a middle manager, I want you to be able to turn around and tell your boss, this is what our accountants are telling us. And so that's sort of what I'm addressing with the essay is, can you take some accounting topic and put it in simple enough or, sort of layman's terms so that you were explaining to someone else, another middle manager or an upper level manager, so that they will understand what's going on. So that's what we're looking at for doing with the essay. Finally, we have 2 case studies. So we'd already looked at the page where for you to download them, and I just want to say that I chose these 2 case studies for for 2 basic reasons. The first reason is that the top 2 industries in South Dakota are sort of agribusiness and mining/energy. So the 2 case studies, one is on agricultural business, a farm, and the second one is on a mining company. This particular mining company is based out of Toronto, out of Canada. So I'm using the case studies to address, large segments of the South Dakota business, so that you have a sense of these type of industries. One of the things I think that goes unnoticed in accounting education is we talk too generally in accounting. We don't actually drill down and start talking about specific industries. So hopefully, if you haven't had a chance to actually look at an industry before, we can start to do that with these 2 case studies. The second thing is I've chosen these 2 case studies because they address 2 topics that I think are pretty important, especially for MBA people. One is the whole idea of managing cash flow. And this particular cash flow is during an acquisition. Most small businesses, if they fail because they haven't managed their cash flow. And when I went into that small technology startup, one of the top 5 things that I had on my list to get right for my new boss was to get him to understand where he was in his cash flow, because he was not managing that very well. And you'll find that is something that, bosses may end up saying, the actual accounting and all the debits and credits and all that stuff, I don't really want to know. Just tell me, how much cash do I have in the bank and when do I expect, and for example, my boss wanted to know how much extra cash would I have at the end of the year after taxes so that I can figure out what the bonus structure was going to be. And that's interesting enough. That leads into our second one. So what we say in business is, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So the second sort of topic, so the first topic being cash flow, and do you know how to read that and understand that? Second thing is, you need to be, as a MBA or as a manager, you need to be able to set up a way to measure things, because how are you going to improve? How are you going to figure out what things need to happen unless you have a way to measure those either improvements or things going backwards? So a lot of times there's lots of different measurement techniques, but one common way is a balanced scorecard. And so we're going to take a look at a mining industry, and we're going to revise the balanced scorecard for the executive pay. And as we get closer to these case studies, I'll produce a video. I'll produce a video here around June 14th and July 5th, and to kind of introduce the case studies and explain what I'm asking for. Now you can see where I've placed these in the schedule. So I have said, you notice because we have an exam on this week, there's no homework to be done on this week. So by posting, you'll take the exam somewhere in here, you'll take a look at the case requirements for the case study, and then basically your homework, your quote unquote homework, is to finish that case by Friday. So there won't be that particular week 5 and week 8, there are no other things due, so you can focus. After exam 1, you can focus on the first case study. After exam 2, you can focus on the second case study, and there's not a third case study, so that when you study for exam 3, you're just studying for exam 3. So I think it works into the situation pretty well. The only other date that I have set out here is, if you're at a situation where you don't feel like you're doing well in the course, just make sure you realize the last drop day is July 8th. So I've kind of put that on the schedule as well. Okay, well, I think that's all of the introduction. We're right around 45 minutes, so hopefully this wasn't too much. If you still have questions, and I'm sure there are some details that you probably have some questions about, just send me an email, or you can open a thread on the discussion board. Either way, both of those work. I was just saying the discussion board because perhaps your question might be a question that other people have. And so if I answer it there, then, everyone can see the answer at the same time. Other than that, wish you good luck, and hopefully you will find it interesting. And as I've mentioned before, it's very wonderful to meet all of you through your discussion posts. And if you have, as you go along, if there are some specific things about, maybe not necessarily directly accounting, as you see, I've got a broad business background. If you just have a question, a big general business question, just let me know. I'm happy to try and address it. Anyway, good luck, and I will see you in the next video, which is going to be the review on financial accounting. Thank you.